So let's start with the history of the word millionaire. It can be traced back to the 1750s. I think Thomas Jefferson was the first one to popularize the word, but it really didn't come into its full popularity around the 1920s. And just to give you an idea, $1 million in 1920 was worth about $15 million today. So that would make a millionaire a high net worth individual today. High net worth means $10 million or above, and the odds of that are about 50,000 out of 6 billion. So high net worth individual, there's about 55,000 of them from what I've been told at 10 million or above. So that's what a millionaire originally meant. And that's why I believe that the new millionaire is a decamillionaire. And in fact, that's always been what a millionaire was, right? Because nowadays, if you're middle class or perhaps upper middle class, by the time you retire, you should have $1 million if you at least include your home, which is usually paid off at that point, and the cash that you have in equities and things of that nature. You pretty much need, if you're in Toronto, where I'm from, a couple million to be comfortable. And it can't all be in your home. If you want to be able to have a lifestyle of $60,000 a year, which isn't that comfortable in Toronto, but if your home's paid off and you and your wife, which is most people in Toronto are married, and you're each getting 50,000 a year from your pension, your Social Security, and perhaps some investments, you can live comfortably, or you're just spending through, $1 million over the course of 2 decades at 50,000 at a time. There's two of you, it's 100,000. You can be comfortable, but below that, especially if you don't own your own home, you're certainly in some trouble. If you're looking to live for the next 20, 25 years and you don't have kids that can support you. So a millionaire these days is a middle class or maybe upper middle class retiree. Although upper middle class, they might have 3 or 4 if they're including their equity, because it's usually 2 people working, right? And they've accumulated that over 2 people working over the course of 40, 50 years, right? It's only in the sort of the upper class where the husband would be able to support his wife primarily and have a comfortable lifestyle. Like I think in Toronto, if you're going to have kids and the man is the sole breadwinner, he needs to be doing 250,000 Canadian at least, because business taxes, personal taxes, and a mediocre home in Toronto is $700,000, and it's not in the city center. If you want to live in a nice neighborhood like Rosedale, you're looking at like 3 million or something. And these are 100-year-old homes, right? Made of bricks and stuff. It's like in a lot of these older neighborhoods, you're buying an old home, right? It's nice. It looks nice in upper middle class to a degree, but it is certainly not a mansion that you could get maybe out in the suburbs of Florida, right? Or some of these states with cheaper properties. So in the big cities, and I'm sure it's the same in New York, LA, things of that nature, a couple of $1 million doesn't mean what it used to be. I mean, it's certainly something if you're a young guy, right? And you've got your whole life to earn more money, and you're taking that mill or two and putting it back into businesses you own and reinvesting into other investments, right? But let's say I was 35 or I'm 40 now, and I stacked 2 mil, and I was planning on still living in Toronto, which I left in 2014. I wouldn't be comfortable. Absolutely not. Would I be comfortable here in Southeast Asia or in Eastern Europe or Latin America? Kind of, but not for the rest of my life. At least when I see 40% expansion of the money supply post-pandemic, right? Trueflation stats showing 15%. CBDCs en route, ESG tax en route, social credit en route, carbon credits on everything you buy en route, travel permits, 15-minute cities. With CBDCs, some of that money could be programmable. I've heard um, speculations about putting a limit that someone can have in their personal bank account. I don't think that will be, I think that would be a tough thing to pass, but you never know. And if it does get passed, I would imagine you'd still be able to hold whatever you want in your business account. It'll just make, um, or perhaps in investments, it'll just be a way to try and minimize inflation by people not being able to hoard cash in their personal accounts. And it will, of course, affect, like all these things, the middle and lower class. I'm confident that if you're able to make it in the 0.01%, the decamillionaire status, the top, you know, 50,000 across the board. Even if those stats are wrong, let's just say the top 200,000 across the board out of 6 billion. Um, you're going to be able to survive and thrive whatever the new rules come out, right? Because the new rules are still going to have ways for wealthy people to stay wealthy, because in each of these countries that is rolling out the reset en masse, um, the wealthy people in that country who are rolling it out, are going to want to stay wealthy, right? Which is why I think that now more than ever, the decamillionaire is the new millionaire, because the term millionaire was so old. It was old by the time I first had heard about it in 1990, right? When I was probably about 8 years old, because I was born in '82. A millionaire was worth 2.3 million back then, which was a good amount of money. Um, it was a lot more money than it is now. Now it's less than half its value, and you still kind of would have needed that to, retire back then, or somewhere around that, right? So even in that day and age, the word had lost a lot of its meaning, but people's mentality towards the word millionaire hadn't caught up to the inflation, right? Because it was originally designed or popularized in 1920, and it still had a certain amount of cachet. Oh, I want to be a millionaire when I get older, as opposed to I need to be a millionaire to be able to just retire middle class, right? Because the mind share in regards to people had not factored in the last 70 to 90 years of inflation, and that the word millionaire did not mean the same thing. What it meant in the 1920s was you're set, right? In the same way as if you have 15 million now, which is the equivalent of what it was in the 1920s, and you put that into dividend stocks, dividend yielding real estate, gold, Bitcoin, and or you have it in your businesses earning you revenue, you're straight, okay? Assuming you invest properly in your private businesses and hedge properly in your investments, and you got to do a lot more than you used to do, because banks fail. You want to be in multiple bank accounts across multiple countries. You don't want all your real estate in one place, multiple streams of income. And I talk about all this in my net worth course, how to get an 8-figure net worth. It's a game plan. It's not a guarantee, but it's a game plan, because I think this is the new game to play this decade, to be aiming for 10 million either, a decade from now. It's 2023, so 2023 or 2033, you're sitting on 10, or at the least you're at 10 in terms of your net worth, plus say your net worth is 5, and you've got 5 million in revenue coming in from your businesses and your rental income or whatever.